We're going to purge a new legacy and we're going to escape a new age with the Croods. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Becks Perfect, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
Welcome to Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything cinematic, as we say. So hi, Bex. How you doing this week?
Hi, Van. Yeah, I'm good. I was just thinking ahead, and I am on holiday in a couple of weeks, and I just realised that week that I'm on holiday, it's like Suicide Squad week. It's like big movies coming out. So I'm going to have to join the general public and just go and watch it at my leisure.
Well, you know, the fun part of that as well is that week, as well as the Suicide Squad, there is also Jungle Cruise with Dwayne Johnson, which, as well as being in cinemas, is also going to be a Premier Access title. So you can watch that on Disney Plus at home as well, should you choose. But I agree, it's a terrible week to have to miss. But you know what? This is always our lot in life as film critics, missing the movies that we would otherwise want to see. We're going to have that actually with our very first film, our very first new release for this week, which is in cinemas from today, Friday the 16th of July. I almost said May for a second. I have no idea why May. I didn't get to see Space Jam: A New Legacy. You did, Bex, so I'm going to let you tell us about, well, it's now literally, isn't it, 25 years this year since the first Jam, since the original Jam, the OG Jam.
And I think, this is high on a lot of people's expectations if they grew up as a kid of the 90s, loved Michael Jordan, loved the bonkersness of the original Space Jam. Because let's face it, the 90s was full of bonkers, big budget, not just on film, but on telly as well. So, obviously this is something that is much loved, hence why the second movie is called A New Legacy, because it is continuing a very popular legacy. This time, what we see is a fictional version of LeBron James. Okay, so it's
LeBron James?
Huh?
LeBron James?
No, it's LeBron, but it's like he's got I believe that the family that he has in this movie is not his real family acting, because they'd all be really good actors.
Yeah, I don't think he's married to Captain Burnham from Star Trek Discovery.
Well, there we go.
In reality,
I could see it though. I could totally see it. But he, we get a little insight into his passion and focus for his sport, and he's got two sons, one of which is really into basketball, one of which is actually into video games, his son Dom. And he just tries to sort of, get him on side with him, and it doesn't quite work out. So you've got a little bit of a family dynamics there. He then gets invited to essentially a pitch from Warner Brothers, in which he I'll come on to that in a minute. Okay. In which they want him to kind of represent them in a new way. He doesn't buy into it, but the person behind this kind of pitch is actually like an algorithm played by Don Cheadle, and he's like this supervillain algorithm that sits in the server sphere of Warner Brothers. Right. And so he decides to capture both LeBron and his son and bring him into this digital space. And the only way that they can both get back home, I don't know if you can see where I'm going here because it's not exactly different from the original, is to pull together a team of the best basketball players in the universe to play against this AI villain. And of course he doesn't get that. He gets a bunch of Looney Tunes instead.
We rapping now? We rapping? Show 'em who you really are, notorious P.I.G. Oh boy, here goes nothing. What up? It's Porky Pig. They call me P-double-L-G. Step to me's he don't want no trouble. I was famous before the internet. Since 1935, I've been getting respect. This pig is lit. I'm super legit. Every time I'm out in public, people asking me for pics. Nobody knows you when you walk the street. How your last name rhythm and you're still off beat. From beginning to the end, I'm here for all the smoke. Your squad ain't all star. Your squad is all jokes. And this with one bar, most famous of all quotes. This battle is now over. That's all, folks.
Okay, so before we begin to unpack that, which I don't even know where to begin. Before we even begin to unpack that, I just got to ask the obvious question that you have to ask before discussing Space Jam, and it is kind of the required caveat of any discussion on this property, this brand, this IP, and that is, where do you sit, you yourself now, Bex, on Space Jam, the 1996 original? Do you actually think of it? Do you think it is actually a film worthy of the fandom that it has? Or do you think that actually it's a crap movie and its reputation is built entirely upon nostalgia and rose-tinted glasses?
The latter. I'm not a sports fan, right? First and foremost. Okay, so it doesn't appeal to me. It didn't appeal to me. That is the year that I was rewatching The Goonies and rewatching, those Amblin classics that I love. So I'm not your target audience for this, and I totally get that. Regardless of that, this is not a movie, right?
Is it not?
This is not a movie.
Was the rapping pig not in an actual cinematic venture? Oh.
No, it was in a video game. Quite like Ready Player One is a video game. This is not a movie. This doesn't have the narrative to kind of hold it through. It doesn't have the nostalgia. It's like if it could pull every single pop culture reference and shove it in and hope it works, that's what this is doing, which is a shame. And it's also the odd bits of product placement I get, right, in movies, I kind of understand, or even like reality TV, you watch the X Factor, they've got like Coke cans up there or whatever. This is this is an advert for Warner Brothers. Like there is like when he goes into the Tuniverse or whatever it is that he goes into, like he goes through the Warner Brothers shield, right? It's like everything is like you could play the pitch that they give to LeBron James. You imagine that if you were doing a walking tour through Warner Brothers, that you'd see that kind of video pitch. It is awful, right? It is not a slam dunk. Oh no, actually, I loved it. No, I'm joking. I really hated it.
This is a first for us, Bex. I mean, I feel like genuinely flattered that you've allowed me to go through this with you. I feel like it's such a rarity for you to rag on a movie.
Well, I like to be balanced on it, but I was looking around at what I thought were the jokes. And nobody in the screening room was laughing. And so it's not me. And do you know what? You and I had a couple of texts after the movie. And I said, okay, don't worry, I've got Space Jam covered. And you were like, I've heard it's dreadful. And I said, I wasn't going to say anything until we got on air. But yeah.
You've actually been soft compared to some friends I've spoken to. Like you've been actually quite soft and you are still resoundingly negative.
There's no place for this movie. There's no need for it. Like LeBron James
Jam 2. Wow.
I know. LeBron James exec produced it. I think I saw Ryan Coogler exec produce this as well.
He is. Yeah, Ryan Coogler did produce this. And Malcolm D. Lee, the guy who's directing this, is the guy that came up with the Think Like a Man movies. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, this is not a half-wit.
Let me just say one thing that really irked me. So the two main actors, physical actors, are LeBron James and Don Cheadle. Yeah. You don't expect LeBron James to be able to act. You expect Don Cheadle to be able to act, right?
Yeah.
LeBron James lives up to expectation. No, he can't act. He can't even act as a voiceover, right? And yet, Don Cheadle is fed the most disgustingly base lines that even he can't bring them to life. And oh my God, just tear me away from this. It's just awful. Leave me alone.
Don Cheadle, a man who was in Iron Man 2, has somehow found a worse movie. Mind you, then again, he was in Ocean's 12 as well. Let's never forget about that. Okay, let's talk about something slightly more fun then, which I think has a slightly more positive result. Escape Room Tournament of Champions is out. Did you get to see this one?
No, and I'm gutted because I love an escape room. Like, it's one of my favourite things to do.
So we had this, I think it was 4 years ago now. Oh, no, sorry, it was only 2 years ago was the original escape room. It was put together quite quickly and quite cheaply. I think it was filmed in South Africa, literally on the cheap. This is only a couple of mil. Pretty big hit, internationally. And the basic setup is it's Saw light, effectively. It's like a group of strangers get invited to a mysterious escape room, cue a series of Saw-style, death traps that they have to work out the escape puzzles to get through. We had two survivors of the first movie. They are now back, and the story is continuing. They are now going on the trail of the people behind the escape room to begin with, and this then leads them to be captured and put into a new escape room, along with a series of other survivors from other previous escape rooms. And what you've effectively got is the Hunger Games 2, where it is literally the champions of the previous games all taking part together.
Do you hear that?
Welcome to Minos Escape Rooms.
Keep your belongings inside at all times.
Minos found us.
It's happening again.
No, I knew I shouldn't have come back. Oh my God,
Wait, you guys have played the game before?
So that makes this what? Tournament of Champions?
I was like, I've seen a very similar film. I've seen the first one, and actually the first one wasn't out that long ago. That's why I was like, I've seen one like this recently.
I swear it was about 3 months before we went into lockdown. I'm sure it was.
Yeah,
and it's not bad. They're not bad. They're not anything impressive. You know exactly what this movie is. It's a 90-minute long. Here's a cast where you'll recognize two faces. One of them was maybe in movies 30 years ago, and the other one's like on cable now.
Yeah. Okay.
One of those. It's Saw light. If Saw exists, this is like carpet knife. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I liked the first one. Now I've put the link together. I'm actually quite excited to watch this one. So how does it?
Younger skewing. To be honest with you, it is more mythology heavy. It is an actual part 2. This is not like we are world building with this. This just feels like the next day the characters carry on.
Yeah.
And it does retain that feeling of we are watching a younger skewing, slightly more optimistic and brightly coloured take on the Saw franchise. Cast are all perfectly fine. There's some inventive enough traps, even though they do increasingly become quite ludicrous as it goes on because it starts to take it out of the real world. If you want me to go with the genre comparison, I would say this is a better sequel than the similarly pitched Cube 2 Hypercube, but nowhere near as good as Saw 2.
Okay.
And that is literally the Escape from a Death Room sequel spectrum right there.
Welcome back to Off Screen. So I've calmed down since Space Jam. I'm over it now to an extent. I'm going to move on to a franchise that has fared better, like in terms of it's gone beyond the second one, and we are at number 5 in the franchise now. It's out.
5?
Yeah, it's the 5th movie.
Oh my God. Do you know, I've lost count now. It just feels like it's always been, because obviously we got to we're on 11 Saw movies? Are we on 9? We're on 10 or 11 Saw movies with Spiral. So, I mean, I don't know with this one. And also, when you said you'd calmed down from your previous anger, I thought you were going to say that you'd purged, which would have just been the perfect segue into the Forever Purge or the Purge 5, whatever you want to call it. So you saw this as well?
Yeah, I did. And before you say, I wish I'd thought of that. I'm still reeling from my pain over Space Jam that I've forgotten to do something cool and funny and quippy like that. But anyway.
Hold your quips. It's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, the 5th movie in the franchise. So this one takes a twist, and I was intrigued to see how they were going to play this one out. So it's called the Forever Purge. It takes a twist on the idea that the annual purge is going to extend beyond its original one-night quota. So the Forever Purge basically follows Adela and her husband Juan, who are 2 immigrants, I suppose illegal immigrants that have come over to Texas, and they work for a very wealthy cowboy family.
Yeah, very ranchy.
Yeah, they're real ranch.
What is it? They're so ranchy that this is a family that includes both Will Patton as the sort of grandfather figure and Josh Lucas as the adult son. So that's how ranchy they are.
Yeah. And the son has a slight issue with Mexicans, doesn't really like them. So there's like a racial issue here. There's all this kind of stuff. There's prejudice going on. So this is the backbone of what is driving this particular narrative of the movie. But basically, they get through the annual purge, and actually it's a bit of a non-event for them. They've all put their shutters up and whatever. The next morning, though, they kind of go back to normal, and then suddenly a masked gang of killers appear, and both the wealthy ranch family and Juan and Adela eventually, and his family, they have to kind of work together to fight back against these forever purgers as the whole of America spirals into chaos.
Come on, they sell things, the chingaderas estas, the
towers?
Yeah, the towers, the cell towers, they are cutting them.
Hey, we just watched that a lot of cities have gone dark. Miami's gone. Austin is under siege. First responders are overwhelmed. We're in a state of emergency. It's all over the country. The violence is spreading and not stopping.
Due to the waves of violence currently sweeping the U.S., Mexican President Leon Garcia Soler and Canadian Prime Minister Sophie Puech are opening their borders for the next 6 hours. Mexico and Canada will take in anyone from America unarmed and give them sanctuary until order is reestablished in the U.S.
We gotta go to Mexico.
After 6 hours, both borders will be closing indefinitely.
Vámonos pa' México, bonita.
Now, here's the interesting thing with the Purge franchise. It's always had a topicality, but it found itself 5 years ago faced with a quite problematic optics issue, which was that they put out a movie called The Purge Election Year.
Yeah.
During an actual election year, which was intentional, they had meant to do that, but the thing was, it was meant to be released during a regular election, and it got released during the Trump election.
Yeah.
And so what you had was a point at which the series could not have been further from relevance, because all of a sudden our reality looked not entirely dissimilar from this supposedly cautionary tale that they were trying to put, and it stopped being a cautionary tale. But because they didn't have, the runway, this is not their fault. This is down to release timing. It sort of forever dented them as far as being able to tackle immediate topical relevance goes. And so what we've got now is the first one that I would say has been specifically targeted back at the Trump era, and it is in looking at specifically how immigration has been dealt with, and how things like the wall, and how certain phrases from the Trump era have actually, funnily enough, always been present in the fundamental alt-right Republican theology of the Purge series. Having said that, they don't really do a very good job with the opportunity given them here, because it comes across as quite canon films and quite direct-to-video in terms of quality, writing, and even its actual production value and cinematic worth. Very ropey.
And I thought, actually, the thing I actually really enjoyed, this sounds sadistic, I enjoyed the violence in the original Purge. It's the shock factor of that. And the most shocking bit of constructed violence that you get in this movie is what you see in the trailer, where Adela is basically slammed over she goes into a goat pen to kind of rescue a goat, and then gets slammed. That's the only kind of like Saw-esque, we're pushing the boundaries of violence feel to it, and that's in the trailer. It's not on the top end of the scale of the Purge movies.
Well, I know that the fandom for The Purge actually is of a decent size now. Like, the audience seems to have grown quite a bit since the Amazon Prime TV series, which I think is takes place during one Purge, I think. But Ethan Hawke apparently turned up in, like, the second season as his original 2013, 2014 Purge character, apparently to link it all. Like, this has a continuity now that I'm not offhandedly aware of. But the thing I feel like with the Forever Purge is we have now reached the point that these have stopped being socially constructive horror films and have simply become horror films that occasionally take stabs at being socially constructive. And that's a problem. When the other movies have come at them first and foremost from the sociological angle, or the socio-political angle, or the cultural angle, they've worked. Even though they've not been topically relevant, they've worked. Yeah. So even election year still had its points to make, and it still had things to say, and it still really worked. This just feels like a complete mess, because for one thing, it just feels like they went and made a horror movie first and foremost. Like, it is shot as a horror movie. The deaths take place as a horror movie, like you just said, a Saw-style movie. And you're thinking, but at the same time, we weren't going back to the Purge movies because of the gore or the Saw-style deaths or the horror movie deaths.
Oh, I was.
The reason we kept... but that's it. The thing is, though, most of us kept going back to the Purge movies because the idea is so good for a movie.
Yeah.
Like this is a franchise that never needs to end. In fact, the more they keep coming up with nonsense explanations, like, 8 years later they re-elected the new founding fathers, and I don't care. I don't care. Just all you need to say is they voted it back in. That's all we needed. We don't need a mythology to the Purge. It literally just needs to be, boom, this is happening on Purge night. The end. There's been 5 of these. You get the drift by now. We are not establishing the DVD player heist ring thing at the start of every Fast and Furious movie anymore.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that, because actually, the thing that I think it lacked, right, is that when you watch a Purge movie, the amount of people who come out of the woodwork for the Purge is great.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a huge amount. I actually felt there was a lot less people purging in the aftermath, right? And I was like, where is everyone? Why aren't you doing this?
I mean, we are now 2 entire movies past the point that Rick and Morty parodied this concept into insignificance. And yet... we still come back for them. They're still making them. Audiences are still turning up. So obviously, people are going to see this either way. I know it came out last week in the US, and I think it's today here. It is theaters. It's theatrical only. Like, it's not even. I don't think it's even doing Peacock in the US. Will be towards the end of the summer. But if you really want a very basic version of a Purge movie. That's what this
Yeah.
is, but it does feel like the made-for-TV adaptation. This feels like the Purge series' streaming spin-off.
Yeah, it definitely isn't up there as one of the strongest movies at all. I think if you're really after a bit of a purge yourself, go back and rewatch the first one. That's the one you want to catch.
So let me tell you about something more upbeat, more fun, and would you believe it, not even the only animated sequel we've reviewed this week. So let's talk about The Croods, A New Age, which is out today. Came out 6 months ago, November last year in the US, would you believe? Got released on PVOD in the US just before Christmas. So this movie's been around a while. It turns out that, well, obviously The Croods was 2013. Turned out to be surprisingly good. Did you see The Croods?
I haven't, no. I've never seen any of this.
Right. So The Croods is basically sort of Flintstones-like set of, not really like Flintstones, they're a caveman family, okay? You've got the dad who's Nicolas Cage, the mum is Catherine Keener, this is all CG animated by DreamWorks, teenage daughter is Emma Stone, teenage son is Clark Duke. And they met, in the first movie, they met Guy, who's a sort of, inventive, resourceful, solo, sort of manic pixie dream boy type, played by Ryan Reynolds. He's so cool, he literally has an animal he wears as a belt, whose name is Belt. Anyway, so the first movie was effectively Meet the Parents. Yeah. You've now got the sequel, which is effectively, imaginatively enough, Meet the Fockers, which I'm going to have to say again, Meet the Fockers. Okay, so please don't take us to task on that's the name of the movie. I did have to clear this beforehand. Anyway, so this time around, his new in-laws are going to meet his parents, effectively, except they're not really his parents. They're sort of his dead parents' friends. When the wandering caveman sort of family that he's now girlfriended into meet the Bettermans, as they're called, who are voiced by Peter Dinklage and Leslie Mann, and with a daughter voiced by Kelly Marie Tran, so Raya from Raya and the Last Dragon. And of course, what you then got are the Croods, the gruff caveman type, meeting the woke, the new age. The movie is literally called A New Age. They meet this new age, super woke family who are all into conservation and free living and things. And wouldn't you know it, they're going to come to loggerheads, but certainly no more so than the daughter Kelly Marie Tran, who also serves as a sort of rival love interest against Emma Stone for the affections of that manic pixie dream boy.
Hi, Guy! Hey, you.
Where'd you go?
Took Chunky for a joyride.
Joyride? Joyride?
We rolled the death outside the wall.
Cats. You took Dawn for a joyride outside the wall?
Yeah.
Well, the Bettermans, they don't want Dawn outside the wall. They built the wall for a reason, to keep everyone safe.
Guy, relax.
Yeah, Guy, take it down low.
What's wrong with her?
It's just a reaction to the bee venom.
Bee venom?
Bee venom!
What the?
It's just a little bee sting.
Little?
Hey, you're not the boss of me.
This is a very severe... Eep, this is a very severe bee sting.
This is a very severe bee sting.
Fine.
I think I need to watch this to kind of to get my head around whether or not I'm going to enjoy it. The question I always ask about an animated movie is, does it appeal? Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Does it appeal to both adults and kids?
Yes, absolutely. Now, the first movie was better than it had any right to be. This actually is even better somehow. This works very well. Nicolas Cage is having an absolute ball. The cast are all absolutely perfect in it. I think it's one of the final performances of the late, great Cloris Leachman as the grandma figure of the family as well. And it's just a good time. I had some seriously hardcore laughs during this. I cared. I was emotionally invested. I sort of knew where it was going throughout because, I'm not 5. And yeah, I had good fun. There's some cool setups in this. I like the animated style. The humor is at times goes quite cloudy with a chance of meatballs. It's fun to see Nicolas Cage being Nicolas Cage in full Homer Simpson mode at the same time. It's like Nicolas Cage's Fred Flintstone, right? If you would imagine. Imagine what Nicolas Cage would play. It's exactly like that. Yeah, good fun. Recommend it. If you want something for the kids this weekend, absolutely unmissable. And by the sound of it, certainly better than Space Jam and New Legacy. The Croods, A New Age, I think definitely one you have to see. And now it's time for a segment we like to call Off Screen Pays the Bills. Hey, Bex.
Hey, Van, what's going on?
Hey, nothing going on but the rent. You know how we be. Still, we must smile, eh?
Well, smile indeed. You know what? I've been looking a little bit behind the science of a smile, right? And I think
are we by any chance sponsored by a company that deals in terrific smiles?
We are talking this week about Smile Brilliant, right? And they've come up with 5 fantastic facts, which I didn't know this, and I don't think you did either. So basically, fact number 1 is that teeth whitening does not whiten your teeth. What? Mind blown on that one. Teeth whitening does not damage your teeth, but it does temporarily dehydrate them, which is interesting. It also, they've come up with the fact that tooth sensitivity is the result of tooth dehydration. Caps and veneers cannot be whitened because they don't have the pores and for stains to latch to. And the key to teeth whitening is, most importantly, the device in which you whiten them on. So the delivery
that makes
device.
sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
Doesn't it? So, it's things like whitening strips. They often neglect the crevices and the molars. They slide on your teeth. All those things that are slightly annoying when you're trying to whiten your teeth.
I can't get on with those.
No, exactly. Neither can I. And I've tried everything. I've tried those big teeth whitening machines that you go in for and stuff like that. It doesn't all work. So the way that teeth whitening has been recommended by dentists is by using a custom fitted tray. So you can have your dentist, you can have them make them, right? But it's really costly for you to get that done. For our friends,
that's a boatload.
Absolutely. So for our friends over in the States, it's between $300 to $600, right? There is now, thanks to Smile Brilliant, an alternative, which is a great alternative. So if you go over to smilebrilliant.com and you use their lab direct mail-in process for a fraction of the price than you pay at the dentist, what you can basically do is you can purchase Smile Brilliant's custom fitted night guards if you're grinding your teeth. And again, that's something that can help you from going on and paying all these expensive things. So what they will do is help you in loads of different ways to make you smile more brilliantly, which is exactly the purpose. We all want to have much more beautiful, white, shiny teeth. And all you need to do is go to smilebrilliant.com and use the coupon code offscreen to go and get your fantastic discount.
I love it. Boom. Speaking of booms, let's talk about our other sponsor for this week. Let's talk about our sponsor. I love this idea. Okay, so this is a new platform from SmugMug. It's called SmugMug Source. Okay, so you know that whole thing, you take a picture, you've got an image, like, I'm going to treasure this image forever. I often do it. I take a lot of selfies, naturally. SmugMug Source is this wonderful new sort of online toolkit, right? Okay, so this is this allows you to sort of store and manage and organize all your photos. If you take a lot of photos on the fly, I have a lot of photographer friends.
Yeah.
For instance, you've met a few of them, and I've been with them when they've done this. I've done premieres with them and things. They take a load of really high-res images. They want to get them, they don't want to keep them on them for the day and a half it's going to take them to get to the office. They can work on them. So 9 times out of 10 they'll pop to the nearest Starbucks or get on the hotspot, whack the data card in, and upload them. And you know what? The problem is they always want to do this. They always want to do this in that RAW format. RAW, the raw file type. Yeah. Well, it turns out it's actually incredibly difficult to find anywhere that deals with RAWs. And SmugMug Source actually does. Includes RAWs, would you believe, which I know is like the holy grail. So you never lose anything. So it uses all these powerful search technologies and organization tools and all that stuff just to basically cut down, make all your files as easy to deal with as possible. You can centralize everything. They've been doing this for 2 decades. They've got servers stuffed with billions of photos. Apparently, they pitch themselves as a true end-to-end photography platform. And you can give them a trial. No credit card required. All you need to do is head over to smugmug.com/source to learn more. smugmug.com/source. So every photo, every format, everywhere.
Welcome back to Off Screen. We are now moving you from the cinema to the couch, and good luck for you guys sitting down and watching stuff on the couch, because it's got to be better than watching Space Jam. I think I'm just going to keep bringing this back every segment we do.
I'm just imagining what it must be like to be on a really well-going date with you now. It's like, we are taking you from the cinema to the couch.
Yeah. Lucky you.
After a Space Jam screening, Bex, really?
This is not how I planned that day to work out. What have you? And actually, you know what? After a date like that, you could probably do with a dumping, right? So
yeah, of course. Yeah.
What are we talking of dumping? What are we dumping on Saturday night?
The Spy Who Dumped Me is on Saturday night. It's on Channel 4 at 9 p.m. Do you remember this one? This was back in 2017, 2018, I want to say. This starred Mila Kunis and Kate McKinnon. It had Sam Ewan in it as a hunky CIA agent. The whole thing was that Mila Kunis is going out with Justin Theroux, who's, like, it turns out, hasn't told her that he's a CIA sort of black ops secret agent type. And he turns up after having gone missing. He turns up with, like, covered in sweat and blood. People are trying to kill him. There's bullets flying everywhere. He gives her a pack. He says, you got to take this to this place, give it to this person, because now they're after you as well. And they go on a big European adventure, she and her best friend, played by Kate McKinnon. You can imagine how this sort of plays, just with the casting of those two, with, like, Mila Kunis and Kate McKinnon. You kind of know exactly what the movie is just there.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit worried, or was a bit concerned about this one, because there was a terrible Melissa McCarthy sort of one. I always get so confused.
Why do you hate on Spy, man? I've never understood this.
It's Spy, isn't it? Yeah, I hate it.
Oh, man, I mean, you got to at least love the Stath in Spy. He's so good. Also, Rose Byrne in Spy. Or Jude Law in Spy. Alison J. Everything about Spy is... I'm sorry, everything about Spy is great. I got to disagree with you on. Anyway, it's not the point. Spy isn't on Channel 4 at 9 o'clock on Saturday night. The Spy Who Dumped Me is. Very different Spy. This one does dumping.
That one does do dumping. I'm gonna dump that one on Saturday night, though. It's just not my thing.
Really? I think you should. I think if you want a good globe-trotting action comedy, I think it's a good time. Especially Kate McKinnon. I love Kate McKinnon.
Maybe for you, I will give it a whirl. We'll see.
But I think we've got the same situation going tomorrow, though, on Sunday. Not tomorrow, but the following day on Sunday, though, when we're talking about Hail Caesar on Film 4 at 4:45. You're not a fan of this one, are you?
Well, no, do you know what? I think I had such high expectations for this that I was actually quite let down a little bit. You know this. Anything to do with, like, the golden age of Hollywood, that glamour of that's why I got into movies. That's why I love it, is because I've just have this real idyllic dream of, like, walking around backlots and seeing, like, people dressed as Roman soldiers and stuff like that, like extras and things. I've been to Pinewood. It doesn't quite work like that. But this is Hail Caesar is a movie that stars an all-star cast. It launched the career, short-lived, of Alden Ehrenreich, and it's about a Hollywood fixer in the 1950s who wants to keep the studio stars in line. So we've got Josh Brolin, George Clooney's in this, Ralph Fiennes is in this, Scarlett Johansson, Tilda Swinton, Channing Tatum, Frances McDormand, Jonah Hill. I mean, you know what? Let's just listen to a clip.
Say your line exactly as I'm about to. Just as I'm about to do.
Sure, okay.
Would that it were so simple.
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 My dear boy, why do you say that? Why do you say twere?
Well, you said say it like I said it.
Yes, but...
Would that it were so simple.
Would that it were so simple.
Would that it were so simple. Would that it were so simple.
Watch my mouth. Would that it were so simple.
Would that it were so simple.
Keep your head still. Would that it were so simple.
Would that it were so simple.
Would that it were so simple.
I'm trying to say that, Mr. Lawrence.
Lawrence?
I thought a minute ago it was Lawrence.
No, we can use Christian names, my good dear boy. Lawrence is fine, just as I call you Hobie.
Okay.
So, would that it were so simple.
Would that it were so simple.
Would that it were so simple. Trippingly.
Would that it were so simple. Trippingly.
I love that so much. That's one of my favourite clips in any movie ever. Ralph Fiennes in that movie, just terrific.
Yeah.
I have such a deep love for this movie. It's a movie I go back to, and it's on perfect time, Sunday afternoon, 4:45. It's the perfect movie to just, when you've had your Sunday lunch, if one of those people has your Sunday lunch early, just go sit down on the couch, just, unbuckle and enjoy this movie. Just let the gut out post Sunday dinner and enjoy Hail Caesar. It's a good romp on Film 4.
Yeah.
Another solid thriller. I don't know if you've ever seen this one. I don't think we've spoken about this one. So great movies. Monday night, 9 p.m. A John Travolta classic. Okay, this is 1998's The General's Daughter, in which he's effectively the JAG officer investigating the murder of guess who on an army base, and all his suspects are, members of the military complex and have to adhere to rules and codes. Someone's lying, but how are they doing it? This one's got an all-star cast as well. You've got Travolta, Timothy Hutton, sort of pre-Me Too, was in there as well. You've got Madeline Stowe. You've got James Cromwell, Clarence Williams III. Just a really great cast in there. I think this is a really great, solid thriller, and just good, solid John Travolta fun as well. Like, he's cool as hell in this one.
Do you know what? I think I have seen it, but many moons ago. So, it certainly rings a bell, shall we say. And when you said it was a John Travolta movie, I was like, Yeah, I actually think I have seen this. So I might rewatch it again. It's on Great Movies at 9 p.m. on Monday night. But yeah, when was it out? Like 90s? Late 90s?
98, I think. So
yeah.
I went to the pictures to see it, which shows you exactly the kind of movies I watched when I was 15. But yeah, movies from the director of Con Air. I want a military procedural thriller. Oof, hook me up. Red Bull for the win, yo. Anyway, let's talk about Ted 2, which is on E4, 9 p.m. on Tuesday. You're a fan of this, aren't you? You're a fan of Ted
do you know
2,
what? Maybe this is what sort of dictates how I feel about movies nowadays. I love the Ted movies. Like, I just love this kind of like funny, crude, slackery type of movie, like with a talking teddy bear. Who doesn't?
You show me any scene from these two movies in which Ted is simply sat in his boss's office and comes out with one of his little comments back to him, and you lose me for the day, because that kills me with laughter.
Yeah, I don't think that the second movie is as strong as the first. I think you lose that surprise factor, which we can all imagine. But I think the hype, I remember like seeing all the billboards and stuff going, oh my God, there's another Ted movie, this is going to be brilliant. I would like to see a third, actually.
I think the second one, I think, is more episodic than the first one. It does seem to change its central storyline around a couple of times. It comes back sort of coherently at the end, but it's still good, fun comedy, though, regardless, like even if it is a bit messy. What else we got there? So let's talk about Wednesday the 9th. Wednesday the 9th? Is that right? No, it's not. I don't know. I've left the dates from last week in this script, clearly. On BBC Two at 11:15 p.m, we have the one, the only Christopher Nolan. It's not even our only Christopher Nolan movie we're talking about this week. So should we talk about both Nolan movies kind of together?
Yeah, go on. They're very different Nolan movies.
Very different. So on Wednesday on BBC Two at 11:15, we've got not his first movie, but I think it's his second, Memento. This was his breakout movie back in, I think, 2000, I think it was. And then on Thursday on BBC Four at 10 p.m, you can catch not his most recent movie, but the one before, Dunkirk. We've got a little clip for you from Dunkirk.
You're weekend sailors, not the bloody Navy. You should be at home.
There's no hiding from this, son. We have a job to do.
Turn it around!
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall never surrender. We shall never surrender. We shall never surrender.
Where's the bloody Air Force?
This, you can probably hear from that clip. I remember us leaving the IMAX, having seen this, and I was like, that stopwatch throughout kept me. It's such a brilliant piece of cinema, like just amazing, a masterpiece of capturing the tension of war in one long go. Like, you really felt like you were those guys on the beach at Dunkirk. You were in the thick of it with everyone there. It was so immersive. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad for Nolan, because he had his thunder stolen. Like, the legacy of this movie kind of just went away really quickly since 1917 rolled around. Because it felt like it was, even though it wasn't, it felt like it was the following year when 1917 rolled around, and then everyone was focused on 1917 because it was one shot, isn't it? No, it's not. That's not how editing works at all. But anyway. How do you think the runners function? How do you think they filmed that? Really? Anyway.
It's nice to lose yourself in a movie every now and again, but Van clearly can't do it. He's just always looking for the errors. I want to prove you wrong.
But, and of course, Memento is just a really great twisty-turny thriller, sort of memory games being played by...
With Guy Pearce,
With Guy Pearce, that one. And Joe Pantoliano as well in that, I think is very good. But then that's not the big cult item of our week. Take us through to Friday night then, Ms. Perfect. So, BBC One, 10:35. We need some company, I think.
We do. And, you might just sleep all day, party all night, but you know what? It's fun to be a vampire. This is The Lost Boys, BBC One, 10:35 p.m. I suppose it's one of those films that I was like, this is so cool. I watched it way too young. Wanted to be as cool as I was like, if you made me a vampire, as long as you don't kill me, if you made me a vampire, I'd be cool with that, right? And this is like Keith Sutherland at his coolest. Alex Winter's in this, and also Jason Patrick? No.
Jason Patrick, who replaced Keanu in the Speed sequel. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, it's Diane Weiss is in it. It's got the best sort of rendition of Baker Street playing at like the party. I went to Santa Cruz when I was in the States because on a road trip down, and I said I just want to go to Santa Cruz because I want to see the whole, the theme park there on the beach, and it had a weird eerie vibe about it. I'm not going to lie. I was in it. I was immersed. I loved it. So if you haven't seen The Lost Boys, you've missed out massively. I know you're kind of like, oh, I know why people love this, but stop talking about it.
I don't find it as endlessly rewatchable. I mean, I like the movie, but I feel like I would like it more if a friend didn't force me to watch it once a year. It's kind of like The Goonies for me that way. It's like I would really like to just not have to see it for 5 minutes so that I can appreciate it. Just like that. That's all.
Once a year's fine, though. That's a good amount of time. I'd be watching it once a month if I had the chance.
I don't even watch Forrest Gump or Shawshank that often. I mean, really.
Well, listen, there's two camps here. Firstly, you've mentioned my favourite movie of all time, The Goonies. So if you ever like watching The Goonies and also Lost Boys more than once a year, sit in my camp. If you're in Van's grumpy camp, you can sit with that. But either way, you can enjoy your Friday night because it's 10:35 p.m. on BBC One is The Lost Boys. And when we come back next, we'll be bringing you lots of treats on streaming.
Welcome back for one last ride off screen. And since there's nothing new on the DVD or Blu-ray aisle this week, virtual or otherwise, how disappointing, we're going to have to take it entirely online and hit up the streaming platform. So Miss Perfect, one that I have very, very much been looking forward to discussing in more detail with anyone for the last few weeks has been Fear Street. We've talked about it briefly, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's concluding today. Right, the third and final installment of the Fear Street trilogy is available to stream on Netflix from today. That is Fear Street 1666. So the first movie, which came out a fortnight ago, Fear Street Part 1, 1994. Last week we had Fear Street Part 2, 1978. Today, Fear Street Part 3, 1666. All centers around the small town of, is it Sunnyside?
Sunnyside and Shady... something.
Shadyside and Sunnyvale, I think, are the sort of twin towns. You have Sunnyvale, where everything's happy and it's affluent, and everyone looks like a white picket fence dweller, and it's the ultimate suburban utopia. And then next door is the town with apparently record-breaking murder rate called Shadyside, and there are links and a rivalry between the two towns going back centuries, and it all seems to tie into the legend of this witch, Sarah Beers.
Sarah Beers,
which I did not somehow click until the third movie is where the series gets its title from, because at one point they go down Fears Street, which is named after her, and so then the series takes its title. I did not get this.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So what you've got are three movies that kind of function standalone but don't at the same time. So the first movie, 1994, group of teens take on this witch whose curse has suddenly befallen them. They are besieged upon by monsters from different periods throughout the last couple hundred years, like urban legend type monsters. I think it is kind of like Goosebumps, for an older crowd. It's kind of how it plays. You then get the sequel. There is a cliffhanger element as well. You then get the sequel in which that story continues as the framing device for a 1978 set story, basically going further into the past of this witch's curse.
Which is obviously linked in the first movie. They do talk about that, and there's...
Exactly, yeah. There's some setup, in the same way that Back to the Future 2 occasionally mentions Doc's love of the Old West.
Yeah.
It's in that exact way.
1666. Sarah Fear was hanged for witchcraft. Fact. But ever since she was executed, she's been possessing people, turning them into killers to take revenge on the town.
It's like the nursery rhyme.
Yeah.
Before the witch's final breath, she found a way to cheat her death. By cutting off her cursed hand, she kept her grip upon our land. She reaches from beyond the grave to make good men her wicked slaves.
Yes, exactly. Don't you see what's happening to us? This is all proof. Shadyside isn't just some hotbed for psychos. All these massacres are connected to Sarah Fear. The witch's curse is real.
You then get the setup for the big flashback, which is the bulk of movie number 2, which is set in 1978, and it takes place on a summer camp. Still the same kind of thing. These are all made by director Lee Janiak, Caleb Heyman, cinematographer on Stranger Things, and composer Marco Beltrami. They all look and sound like they want some of that Stranger Things action until you get to the third one. Like the second one still kind of does. There's kind of an American Horror Story light kind of vibe going on there, maybe a bit more compressed.
Oh, I don't know. Like I felt the first. So I've only seen the first movie out of this trilogy so far. I'm looking forward to 1978 and of course 1666 as well. But I felt the first movie felt like Riverdale meets Stranger Things in a way.
I've been calling this franchise American Horror Things. You know.
Yeah, I kind of get it. But what that says is that basically, if you like any of that stuff, you'll find some synergy within this trilogy that you'll enjoy watching.
Well, once you get, say, you've got that Stranger Things grabbing first installment, you've got that summer camp Friday the 13th grabbing kind of second installment, and then for the third one, it goes into something that's become a lot more fashionable in more recent years, the period piece, dramatic horror tale of like the Salem era witch trials kind of thing, that this is all taking place in Shadyside and Sunnyvale, in which we go back to 1666 and we actually meet Sarah Fiers and we actually find out what the story behind Sarah Fiers really is, and then of course we have to tie that back into the present day, so we actually get an ending to it all as well.
Yeah,
it's very well done. And as far as, I mean, for the production standard of them, I can't fault them. They look and feel the part every time. I would argue the third one stylistically is the weakest one at times, but it's not consistently to that level. It does pick up here and there. Beltrami's delivering the goods on the score front. The retro pop soundtracks on the first two are very, very cool. Caleb Heyman, I think, is having a better time with the first two than the third. But the third one is where you get all the acting. There are some great performances, I think, in the third one. And you're never not engaged by it. It is very good stuff. I think if you are a fan of Riverdale, I think you'd lap this up.
Yeah.
Definitely. If you're a fan of anything like Supernatural, even, or something like that, even if you
Vampire
sort of
Diaries, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. If you were a kid when those Goosebumps movies started to come out in 2016, odds are you'll be at the age by now where you'll want to see this, where you know this would be the kind of equivalent to you now. So there is an audience for this, and I think it's definitely worth checking out. The whole trilogy is available to stream. The whole trilogy completely from today is available on Netflix. So I think you should absolutely check it out. I'm a fan of point horror and R.L. Stein and things like this. This is based on R.L. Stein's novels from the 90s. I think please do go and see this, because I really want Netflix to buy the rights to the point horror series and finally give me the Babysitter quadrilogy.
Yes, I'm with you on that. God, I love
that I want so bad. Yeah, I mean, I already have The Girlfriend I Dreamed Of from 1994. Can I now have the movies I dreamed of in 1994, please?
Yeah, and actually, speaking of movies from 1994 or the 1980s or whatever it is, those big ones, there is a great series that came out probably last year actually on Netflix and is getting its season 2 of this, which is The Movie That Made Us, and it's coming out on next Friday. It's available on Netflix. I love this because it was like, the first one was like Home Alone. What were the other things?
No, Die Hard and Ghostbusters were in there, weren't they?
Die Hard, Ghostbusters, Elf. Or was that a different one?
No, Elf was the Christmas movies that made us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we had Home Alone, we had Ghostbusters, we had Dirty Dancing, Die Hard, and then for the Christmas one, I don't know why you wouldn't include Die Hard in Christmas one, just FYI, but for the Christmas one, you had Elf and The Nightmare Before Christmas were the 2 episodes that they cranked out for that one. This time around, we're getting 4 complete bangers, I'm not going to lie back. So first of all, we're getting the one, the only Forrest Gump.
Wow.
We are getting Jurassic Park, we're getting Back to the Future, and, well, you got it, don't you? We're getting Pretty Woman.
Do you know what? The thing that I think, both for you and I, that gets us so passionate about movies is actually learning about the people behind the movies, as much as we love the movies themselves and everything that went into that.
Yeah, as we see on so many of these things, there's always so many great stories behind the making of them. Like, for instance, with Pretty Woman, how that was intended as a much darker, more bleak drama, and then it sort of changed with the casting of Julia Roberts. I think they wanted something sweeter. I think it was called $3,000 originally.
Yeah, and I think there was, I can't remember if it was Home Alone or which one it was, where they were saying like they ran out of funding. and someone they swapped studios and it was never going to get made, and then someone just really believed in them and then got it made, and it became this massive behemoth that it was. It's brilliant, the magic of movies. And if you enjoyed those first couple of series, this is a really good one for you. So that's available on Netflix from next Friday, The Movies That Made Us. Make sure you check that out. But our final installment of streaming this week is one that you're really excited about. It's a Kate Beckinsale movie, and it's not her being a vampire. So
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I miss getting excited about Kate Beckinsale being in a movie, because it's been a long time. But she's still acting. Yeah, she still looks the same, and she's still acting. And anyway, so now someone's given her very own, I don't know, which one are we going to insert here? Peppermint, Atomic Blonde. You know, the hyper-violent female-driven actors of the last few years that we've had? You know, the ones they usually star like Charlize or Jennifer Garner or J-Lo or someone like that. You know, the one where they always get like, she's going to be this is her action movie. Right, we're getting that with Kate Beckinsale. This is her raw John Wick style thing. I was going to say Liam Neeson. John Wick's probably better. So in this movie, follow me with the most absurd concept you've ever heard. She is a bouncer with an anger control problem. She has serious rage issues. And as a result, in order to prevent her from flying into murderous rages, when she starts to feel her blood boiling, she hits a button and turns on an electrified vest that she wears that allows her to calm down. And when, I think it's like her first true love, or like first boyfriend or love of her life, whoever gets killed, she goes out for revenge. And yeah, I think this one might get a bit bloody, if we're being honest.
Lindy.
This is not a cure. The only way we're going to make progress is cutting-edge, avant-garde treatment.
I've got this condition. It makes me snap.
Like Tourette's?
Just a tiny bit more. Oh, seriously? You're going to make me go through the whole face-stomping, bone-breaking, making a mess routine? Okay, fine.
Sounds awful. I can't wait to watch it.
I know. It's one of those things where you know exactly where this is going to, you know how every beat of this is going to feel and look. It's got it's got the same kind of, a Dutch angle camera lens thing from John Wick. It's got the bisexual color scheme that seems to run through all these movies. Like, for some reason, every room is lit in like neon pink and neon blue. Like, let's just keep doing that. That's how all movies look now, regardless of when they're set or where in the world. And then you've got, former for 5 minutes star brought back for this potentially career reviving action role. I mean, it didn't work out for career killing. I mean, it didn't work for Jennifer Garner, but we'll see if Kate Beckinsale can. I mean, Kate Beckinsale can do this stuff. We know that.
But how old is she now? Is she like 60 or something? So can she still do it?
I bet you Kate Beckinsale's probably about 42 at best. I bet you that turns out she can't be that much older than me.
I've got to look that one up. I don't know. But anyway,
don't
regardless,
tell me that Kate Beckinsale's that much older than me. You'll break my heart. I thought we were near the same age.
No, and she's got 2 grown-up kids. Like, her kid is her kid's in college now. So she was born in 1973.
Oh wow, she's got a decade on me. She looks good for it though.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's see. We'll see how that turns out next week. I'm looking forward to reviewing that with you next week, Beck.
Yes, me too.
It's got Jai Courtney in it, so odds are it's not going to go that well.
Like I said, it sounds terrible. I love it.
we shall see, shan't we? Right. So, I mean, other than that, next week we've got a Shyamalan movie to talk about. Old is out next week. I think there's Mads Mikkelsen in Riders of Justice. That's coming out as well. There's The World to Come. We've got some good stuff to talk about next week, but we will talk about Jolt as well, because you don't love me a Crank style movie. Did you ever watch Crank, by the way? You said you were going to.
I know you've saved it for me. I'm yet to watch it. I did watch that one of the guy that was of Jet Li as a dog caged up with Bob Hoskins.
Oh, yes, Unleashed. What do you think?
I thought it was terrible. But anyway, moving on.
I'm destroyed inside, but you know what? We can debate that. We can debate that another time. But for now, that's us with your cinematic entertainment and offerings for the next 7 days, and we shall return in the meanwhile. But I've been Van Connor,
and I've been Becks Perfect, and we'll see you again next week.